Good morning, everyone. Here we back again with another online session, and today we will be with the Cambridge Checkpoint book. Don't forget to write your names in the comments section. So let's start without any further ado. Let's first know what is our lesson about for today. So today it's going to be Unit 8, Hidden Treasures. And the first topic is Adventure Quest characters. After we finish this, we would move on to read a story together. We would not read the whole story because it's a novel, but we would have a synopsis, a summary for that. After we finish, we would find the 5 elements of the story. You remember last week that we explained the 5 elements? Today we're going to apply it together. So it's going to be a practical work between us. After that, we would solve exercise 2, including B, C, D, and E. And to finish this lesson, we would have to practice listening comprehension. As we knew from the objectives, our first point is going to be Adventure Quest characters. Before we explain the characteristics of these stories or these characters, we have to know what is the meaning of Adventure Quest stories. These stories are usually about heroes who are trying to find something at the end, to find a treasure or to find something hidden. So you would expect that it's full of adventures, as the name suggests, and full of exciting things. So even if you're playing video games, especially boys, you would notice that most of the video games are Adventure Quest stories. So we would start with the explanation or the characteristics of these characters. First, you have male characters are found more often than females. Also, there is usually an old man with a secret, and he will guide the hero before he dies. When we say such a characteristic, it's not found in 100% of the times, but most of the time it can be found. Also, and this is something very, let's say, general, the hero is innocent and has no experience, but brave at the same time. The hero will get experience during the story. You will notice his development from this innocent and inexperienced man to a very grown up, wise, and even more brave. For the companions of the hero, you would also notice that there is always this loyal friend. He would be very helpful, will always help the hero during the story. For the evil characters in this type of stories, first you would have powerful lords or witches. The second type, which is, let's say, intimidating as the first one, is the people who work for these lords and witches. The last point is you would always find some characters that come from nowhere. These characters will be helpful in giving information or advice to the hero. As we said, we're going to read this story together, and if you have difficulties in reading this from the computer, you can find this text on page 96. So, it's a plot synopsis, as we said, a summary only for the long novel. It's with the title The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. The wardrobe means a closet. So, of course, it's going to be Adventure Quest story. Let's see what's all about this story. Then we're going to do other things after we finish reading. So, I will start reading now. In 1940, four siblings, Peter, Susan, Edmund, and Lucy, are evacuated from London to escape the bomb attacks of World War II. They are sent to live with a professor who lives in a large house in the countryside. While the four children are exploring the house, Lucy looks into a wardrobe and discovers a portal to a magical world, which is named Narnia. This landscape is covered by snow, as it is under a spell of always winter and never Christmas. There, Lucy meets a faun named Tumnus, who invites her to tea in his home and tells her he should be reported to the tyrannical White Witch, the Queen of Narnia who captures humans. When she returns to the real world, Lucy's siblings do not believe her story about Narnia, but her unpleasant elder brother Edmund follows her through the back of the wardrobe on her next trip and is met by the White Witch, who enchants him with sweets. She encourages him to bring his siblings to her in Narnia by promising that he can rule over them. Edmund returns home and lies to Peter and Susan, spitefully denying Lucy's claim about the existence of Narnia. Eventually, all four of the children enter Narnia together. While hiding in a wardrobe, Lucy discovers Mr. Tumnus has been imprisoned by the witch and asks her siblings to help her to find him. They meet Mr. and Mrs. Beaver, who invite them to dinner and recount a prophecy that the White Witch's power will fail when four children, two male and two female, fill the four thrones at Cair Paravel. The Beavers tell the true king of Narnia, a great lion named Aslan, who after many years' absence is now on the move again. Edmund sneaks away to see the White Witch, whose castle is filled with a stone statue of her former enemies. The Beavers, realizing where Edmund has gone, lead the other children to Aslan. As they travel, they notice that the snow is melting, indicating that the White Witch's spell is breaking. This is confirmed by Father Christmas, who they encounter on the way. The children and the beavers meet with Aslan and his army. Peter takes part in his first battle with a sword given to him by Father Christmas, killing a wolf who threatens Susan. The witch approached to speak with Aslan, insisting that according to magic tradition, she has the right to execute Edmund as a traitor because he has escaped from her power. Aslan speaks Aslan speaks with her privately and persuades her not to put him to death. That evening, Aslan secretly leaves the camp but is followed by Lucy and Susan. They discover that Aslan has offered his own life in exchange for Edmund's. Aslan is tied to the stone table and then killed by the witch with a knife. The following morning, however, Aslan, miraculously alive again, because someone who willingly dies in the place of another is allowed to return to life. Aslan allows Lucy and Susan to ride on his back as he hurries to the witch's castle. There, he breathes upon the statues and they come alive. Peter and Edmund lead the Narnian army in the battle against the White Witch's army, but they are losing until Aslan arrives with the former statues as reinforcements. The Narnians defeat the evil army, and the witch is killed by the victorious Aslan. The children are named kings and queens of Narnia. Several years later, and now adult, the siblings go for hunting for a white stag. Suddenly, tree branches turn into coat hangers, and they find themselves back in the wardrobe as children again. Since we read the story together now, and you can read it alone if you can stop the video right now, you are required to find the 5 elements of the story. I would remind you of these elements and then I would give you the solutions. First, you have characters. You know that characters are all the people or animals in the story. So you can mention as much as you want all the characters that you found. Setting is the time and place. So you can mention the places where this story happened or took place. Third, you have a problem. What was the first problem of this story? What did you feel when things started to be complicated? After that, you have the crisis or the climax, the highest point where events were in the worst way possible. You can also find out this one. And finally, the resolution. How were things solved? By what? What happened in the end of this story? So I would give you time to stop the video and write your answers. Alright, if you finished, now I would be able to give you these answers. First, for the characters, you have Peter, Susan, Edmund, Lucy, Aslan, the White Witch, and Mr. Tumnus. You have many characters. You can even mention other animals or other people that were found in the story. For the setting, well, it started in London, then to the countryside, and then to the imaginary world of Narnia. Well, the time is mentioned at the beginning, it's 1940, but as you notice that the focus is on the imaginary world of Narnia, then the time is not that important. As for the problem, which is kind of hard to be found here, the problem was when Edmund lied on his siblings and became possessed by the White Witch. She was controlling him. In this way, you saw that things began to take another turning. As for the crisis or the climax, it's definitely when Aslan is killed by the White Witch. Here, when you read it and you knew that one of the heroes of the story is dead, it's definitely the worst thing that could happen. That's why it's the climax. And finally, the resolution, how things were solved, it's when Aslan comes back the second day and the Narnias defeat the White Witch's army. So the good has its victory on the evil. Now, in your course books, on page 98, you have exercise 2. It contains 5 branches: A, B, C, D, and E. Starting with A, it's actually something easy that you can think about for if this story reminds you of any other stories that you read or not. While for B, which is something that we can solve together, the question says, how many different animals are referred to in this story? Why do you think it is common to use talking animals in fantasy and quest stories? Well, the answer is going to be simple. For the animals that we found here were 4: a fawn, a beaver, lion, and a wolf. So the use of talking animals or quasi animals, which means half animals, adds magic and is the tradition of children's bedtime stories. It keeps the human character to a manageable number, as the animals are readily identifiable and distinguishable. There is no likelihood of the reader confusing characters or needing to be reminded who they are. even if they appear only occasionally. So, to summarize all this answer, we can say that it could be something magical and unique to use these animals as talking creatures. Moving on to C, the question says, copy the table below into your notebook and completing saying what kind of character you would expect the type of animals to be, judging from the stories that you know, as well as text 8a, which is the story of Narnia. So this question would be great to be solved so that we would know some characteristics of animals here. Even we can use them in metaphors. So to start with the wolf, it's always dangerous and frightening. As for the fox, it's always sly and cunning. For lions, they're usually noble and majestic, so they're usually kings. For deer, it's usually timid and vulnerable, which means weak. For owls, they are wise and all-seeing. Rabbits are innocent and cuddly. Cats, secretive and devious. And finally, for snakes, they're always evil and sinister. Reaching D, the question says, entry into another world by strange route or strange way is common to many adventure fantasy stories. List other examples you can think of. I bet you can do that since you all heard of this story, Alice in Wonderland. Most of us heard of these stories and we sometimes watch some films made about it. There are other examples like Tom's Midnight Garden and The Weird Stone of Brisingamen. As for E, the last exercise for today, the question says, judging from stories that you know, as well as text 8a, which is about Narnia, what do you think the following symbols represent in adventure quests? Symbolism is a very important subject, and definitely we're going to talk about it later. So, when you see a cave, as in the picture, the first one, what do you think of? Of course, it's a secret. By the way, notice here that you can think of other things for the objects given here. Some people could find a cave a different symbol, not a secret. As for the key, it's a symbol of entry to something, entry to another world, for example. For a potion, it's altered state, or some people can find it as a poison. The fourth one is a sword. A sword is usually a symbol of protection or bravery. The last thing would be a ring. A ring is a promise. Our listening comprehension practice is not going to be found in this video. You would find it as a link in your schedule. So, you would have to practice it because it's very important. The answers are given by the end of the video, so you would rate yourself and how you did by writing your answers and then check them with the right solutions. That was all for today's lesson. I hope it was interesting and beneficial to you. Thank you for watching.